Thanks. All right. Everybody stand by. I'm ready. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special Memorial Day evening edition of Bloody Good Horror, although you'll still get it Friday, so really will now be like ancient news when we post this, but that's okay. My name is Eric, and tonight we will be reviewing Monstrous, starring Christina Ricci, everyone's favorite Wednesday Addams. Matilda, I'm going to guess you are a big Addams Family fan.
I am, yes, that's right.
I could just tell.
I literally have said anyone on the podcast, but Matilda specifically.
One of the best compliments someone told me once when I was wearing a striped shirt is that I looked like Femme Pugsley. Made me really happy.
Put that in your Twitter bio.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty good Halloween costume idea in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Joining me tonight, first up, that voice you hear from the Zombie Girls. Please welcome Matilda to the show.
Hey there.
Next up, welcome Ariel.
Hi.
Next up from Richmond, Virginia, welcome Caitlin.
Hello.
And last up tonight from Indiana, welcome my friend and yours, Casey.
Hello.
You know, it's funny, Caitlin, like you could swap the titles of last week's movie and this week's movie, and it would make way more sense.
Oh, yeah. Very
Like
true.
this movie should be called The Sadness, and that movie last week should be called Monstrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's accurate.
You're welcome, Hollywood, doing your job for you over here. Like I said, we're recording Monday evening, Memorial Day. That's why Schnars isn't here, because he like does stuff on Memorial Day or whatever. But I spent minimal time outside today, Caitlin and Matilda. I want you guys to know that.
I was outside a lot yesterday and I was so grumpy. It was so hot.
Same. All right. Well, let's do it. Let's get into Monstrous.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
Started binging Seinfeld again, Caitlin. How do you feel about Seinfeld?
It was in my rotation of like after school, before dinner reruns. It was like Simpsons, King of the Hill, Seinfeld.
Big in syndication, yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you start watching that just so you can know the stewardess on your trip? What's the deal with airline peanuts?
It was a big comfort food watch for me. I'm old enough that like I actually remember watching probably the last 3 or 4 seasons like weekly as it
Me
aired.
too.
Like I
Yeah.
I have a memory of watching the finale because I remember it was like a big event.
Yes.
And then for years in syndication was just like a big comfort food watch for me. So, but it was one of those ones I had to pause for like a decade because I was like I watched so much of it, I was sick of it, and now we're back. So, it gives me hope that I may one day return to The Office.
It's on my rotation comfort, The Office still. That, The X-Files, and
I OD'd
British Baking Show.
I OD'd so hard on The Office that I can't do it. It's like eventually the switch flips, and instead of giving you like dopamine or whatever it is, it just like it hurts. It's like sticking needles in your eyes one day, and then I just wait a decade until it stops hurting. Here we are.
We got back to The Office like 2 months ago. We're currently on Brooklyn Nine-Nine ourselves.
Nice.
Nice.
Good show too.
Eric, where does Breaking Bad fall in the needles in your eyes versus dopamine scale for you?
Somewhere in the middle. Like I've slowed down a lot during like quarantine. I was watching it like I'd finish it every couple of weeks and just start it again.
Oh my goodness.
Because I do
That's so much.
I have it on while I'm working or whatever, it's just background noise.
Gotcha.
I
I
would
never
s-
actually watched it before.
Over the last couple months, I've watched it more of like a slow drip. But then I finally went and started watching Better Call Saul. Like I gave in and was like, all right, we're just gonna binge this so I can watch the last season. It takes a while to get going, but it turns out that's real good too. So I'm waiting for
I've heard
better.
it's good.
I'm waiting for this final season to wrap up so then I can just start binging that one again. So, but I don't like new things. I find them threatening and unpleasant. So, I get enough new
There's
things.
something contained about a finished show that
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I have this finished product.
It's a known a finished show.
Well, it's
Yeah,
funny
there's
though.
enough-
It's funny, especially since quarantine and all that's done. Colleen have caught ourselves even on new stuff. Like Barry just started a couple weeks ago, and we're like, well, if we just wait a couple weeks, we'll have all of them. We could binge them all at once.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Barry. That's such a good
Yeah.
show.
It is pretty good. I've watched some of it. I didn't finish it, but it's good. Henry Winkler is amazing on that show.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
He's great.
So
In
good.
anything.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, Caitlin. That's all I got. Please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, our word for today is maternity.
Mm,
Maternity is the quality or state of being a mother, from the Latin mater, meaning mother.
mater. That
Mater.
reminds me of The Office.
I know.
Sounds like something
Mater.
Dwight would say.
I have married.
Love it. All right, and what does
Yeah.
that have to do with this movie, Caitlin? Why don't you tell us about Monstrous?
Yeah, I would call Monstrous a monstrous motherhood movie, which is why I went for the mom angle. This is written, by the way, by Carol Trest and directed by Chris Cyberston. Stars our friend Christina Ricci of, for me, Now and Then fame comes first on the docket, and then Addams
Christina.
Family, Yellow Jackets, just all the things.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't seen Yellow Jackets, that first season's real wild. It's pretty good.
So
I,
good.
Yeah.
Love
I
that
do
show.
wish there was a little more like feral stuff they showed in that first season, but it's pretty
I
good.
think we're gonna get it next season.
I'm hoping.
She is our mom here in this story, Christina Ricci, and she's got a son played by Santino Bernard. And we see them as they're fleeing what we perceive to be maybe a not so great situation with the dad. And they end up in a new house, in a new town, and sort of set up their life there. They go about going to school, going to work, and trying to make their way in a very unusual situation with some creepy stuff going on in the lake behind the house, some really shitty landlords.
Some real shitty.
I think-
landlords.
That might be as far as we can get without some twist
Yeah,
reveal.
we should say there are some twists in the movie that will probably spoil so that we can kind of discuss the full picture of the movie. I would, if you don't want to be spoiled, turn away. And there we are. Matilda, what do you think of this movie?
I wanted to like this a little bit more than I did because I really love Christina Ricci. But I think it really suffers from her playing a character that feels a little bit similar in Yellow Jackets, like a kind of like brittle femme character where you get the sense that there's something going on under the surface. And that one has a lot going on under the surface. And this one, it was harder to kind of care about what was happening under there. It was harder to connect with, especially until the end.
Mhm.
So overall, I was a little disappointed, and I feel bad for the director and writer of this movie that it came out so close to Yellow Jackets during the Christina Ricci assance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can we? I'm down if we want to call her Christini because I like that. It reminds me of a delicious sandwich. Ariel, what do you think?
I don't know.
Ariel, what do you think?
I'm into it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel largely the same way. I love Christina Ricci, and there are a few points in this when she's really good, but she is carrying the entire movie on her back
Yeah.
because the script is so underwritten. The characters are so thinly drawn. It's boring for a large part of it. I think that the horror aspects are so conceptually thin and so thinly attached to the trauma and sort of emotional stuff that's happening in the movie that it makes it less impactful. And I'm sure we'll get into the twists, but one of them was really predictable. And the other one I thought was pretty good, but it didn't save the movie for me, unfortunately.
Casey.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the lines with everybody here. I was excited for this one mostly because I do love Christina Ricci, and then especially when she does horror movies, she's got a good, talent for it. So I was excited for that. And Ariel, I think, nailed it. The writing on this movie is not there for Christina Ricci to carry this movie through to the end. Can Christina Ricci carry a movie? Absolutely, I think so. I just don't think she had the material to work here. There's not a whole lot of character building going on here outside of the mom and her son, and it's pretty heavily ladled out to get us to think or feel a certain way for them. So it's easy to kind of get lulled into the rhythm, especially the first two acts of this movie. And it's a slog, and it's kind of boring to get through. Once we get to the twist towards the end, I will say it did do a lot for me to change my view on the movie and what was going on in the movie. It was I would say a good emotional reaction to it, and it drew that out of me, which was nice. But like Ariel said too, it was kind of too late, too much. If we could have got that earlier in the movie, played off of that more, I think it could have been a lot more interesting.
Caitlin.
Yeah, I feel much the same way. One thing that we haven't said yet, but that Ariel mentioned over email, is that this is a chicken soup for the soul joint.
Boy,
Yes,
yeah.
it's so
Can we
weird.
can we
That
It's
is
not a
weird.
production company.
can we mark that on our episode guide that this
Yes, I
has to be
will.
the first time we've ever done a chicken soup for the soul movie. I also noticed that like
At
there-
first I thought maybe it was a joke or like had to do with the plot, like it was a title card that was a part of the story,
Mhm.
but
yeah,
it
but
is legitimately like their thing.
not only
Yeah.
that, there's a
Yeah,
good
but-
like 45 production companies at the top of this movie. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
everyone I kept going, is this the movie? Oh, is this the movie? Like, and then it's just like
Yeah.
a boy throwing a thing into a lake, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's crazy.
Yeah, when that chicken soup card came up, I was like, wow, the wheels have really come off in the branding department over there.
I mean,
Yeah,
it also
doesn't
looks
make
They
sense.
could
like
have changed the font too. Like I know it's recognizable, but I was like, oh no.
it looks like a multimedia JPEG somebody made in 1998. That chicken soup for the soul.
In fact, I
movie.
think it is.
Yeah.
But I saw the sort of poster, I guess, for this a while back, and I was like, oh, it's Monstrous Motherhood. Like that's some of what I do on Plug It Up, and I like Christina Ricci, and I was excited, and then I heard a lot of kind of like meh responses to it, and that's kind of my response too. I called the first twist like it's so obvious in the dialogue really early on. And I will say that like I thought I was smarter than the movie because I was like, oh, this is so stupid. I already know the twist. And then later we get another twist that I did like, and that one caught me off guard. I wasn't.
I'd also argue it's not always a killer for a movie to be able to see a twist coming.
No, it's
No.
not. But I think I just because like everyone has said the plot or the story rather was so weak that I just like I wasn't that into it. I like the styling because it's set in like the 50s 60s, and I like that. I like sort of her role as a woman being a typist and sort of like having this mantra that comes from a washing machine commercial and like having that sort of be what gets her through the day a little bit. And I think she's just great to watch, but it's just boring. And the CGI is really, really bad. Like it looked like if Chicken Soup for the Soul is a channel, I guess it might be. I was like, oh, this is like a made-for-TV level bad CGI.
Yeah.
As an in-house chicken soup for the soul.
Yes. They like got an intern from Liberty University.
Oh, it is kind of Jesus-y, right?
Chicken Soup for the Soul, isn't it like a faith-based series? Is it not?
I think so, but I'm not
I
I
sure.
don't know.
So too.
I guess I'll not really for any reason other than just to keep it interesting here. I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate. I think that Christina Ricci's performance is like pretty layered. And what you're watching her kind of go up against that I think is interesting is like at least sort of until the twist, like, but what you feel like you're watching is a woman in the 60s, probably. Is that what we're thinking? Sort of.
I think it's supposed to be 1955.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Like, you know, a divorced woman who left an abusive husband who's kind of butting up against patriarchy and sort of judgment and people kind of assuming that she can't kind of take care of herself. And there's a certain, what I like is you see this kind of really human portrayal of that person going through that. Like she is trying her best to be a good mom for the kid. But you also see those moments where she's just fallen apart. You know what I mean? Which, as a single parent, I could relate to. Honestly, it's like I don't always want to watch a movie where I see somebody like yelling at their kid to do something that they won't do because I'm like, just fucking do the fucking thing. Like, it's not like my idea of entertainment, is what I'm saying. But I do think that Christina Ricci's performance is like pretty compelling, and really the first act of the movie I thought was also pretty compelling. Like visually, this like retro, I guess 50s aesthetic visually is really well done and kind of, it felt to me like lovingly crafted. A lot of the frames have this kind of beautiful symmetry to them of the way objects are placed and the way things are framed. And I like watching movies that feel meticulously framed like that. And I also think then in retrospect with the twist, that sort of plays thematically how sort of like otherworldly everything kind of appears to be in that sort of when we're in the 50s kind of place. And so I think it like opens pretty strongly, and I think that Christina Ricci is really compelling. Freaking mosquito. I think that where we start to go kind of off the rails a little bit is in the second act, where that's sort of where it's revealed what you guys are talking about, that like there's not a lot of depth to the story. And often we'll see movies that are, this is a movie, and I think it's kind of apparent pretty early on, it's more metaphor than it is horror. Like sometimes when you make horror, sometimes people make movies like this and they're like, did you guys hear horror as a metaphor? We should do that. And then they do that, but it's like they forget, or they're not really concerned with the horror part. Like they're sort of very much using the horror part as a vehicle for the metaphor, but to the detriment of the horror, which I think what people don't realize is that, at least for us, maybe that's just for this kind of audience, but like it loses power. Like when those movies are really powerful is when the metaphor is really well done and strong, and when the horror is like scary or unnerving or creepy, because then that's heightening our emotions along with whatever the underlying emotional story is, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen in this movie. It's like a lot more emotional story than it is horror movie. And I think that balance could have helped with some of the script issues. Like when we get the visuals of what the horror thing is, it's like you could have pulled this from any movie. Like I literally have already forgotten what it looked. It's just like a black thing with like tentacles and hair and like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very visually interesting.
Yeah, it's really not. Although I do enjoy the atmosphere of the lake house and the creepy like dusk shots of the lake where they're staring out the window and stuff. Like there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of atmosphere to it. Unfortunately, I do agree with you guys that it kind of falls flat at some point. Where I might differ a little bit is that the ending to me in some way saves it, because it takes this from something that I would have entirely forgotten immediately after stopping it, and it makes it memorable. Like it's a pretty, I think
I love the ending.
The way the two twists hit in like rapid succession, and then that visual change is really stark and kind of impactful. Like that scene where she goes outside and is looking around. That was so cool. And it's all of a sudden it switches like color palettes. The sound is different. It's kind of very much like in your face. We can kind of get into that in a bit here, but so I think the ending at least saves it from being not memorable. I do think there's a lot of missed opportunities here when you think about how impactful the script could have been.
Yeah, if we hadn't had the ending, I would have been like, oh God, what a waste of time. But
I'd be losing my
I really
mind.
did like the ending.
The last
10 minutes are
Yeah.
pretty solid. Although I will say one scene or like sequence that I really liked that was pretty impactful for like the middle of the movie was pretty boring, except for I did like the birthday party scenes. Because they're very sweet, very tender, and really painful. And I
Yeah.
think in a movie that was trying really hard to suss out these like feelings for us, and I was just like, whatever, seen it done better, just it wasn't hitting for me. But the birthday party scene, just with the retro vibes and how much work was put into it and how much care there was between mother and child, like I did really like that scene. So that kind of did bring me back after I had kind of written it off, and then the ending really sealed it where I was like, okay, this is fine. It's not a waste of time.
Well,
It just is not done the way I wished.
and that birthday
could've
party
been.
scene in particular is part of what I'm talking about with like where you see this balancing of single parenting and even not, I mean, just regular parenting, right? Like in any kind of parenting, you often feel run down and like you're not enough or you're not like up to the task. And we see a lot of that, but then we see this birthday party scene where like you see how happy she makes him and sort of you get to have that moment of kind of parenting victory with her. And those are the little things that do endear you to the characters.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
even that scene, the end of it, the way she reacts when she finds out he never gave the invitations out to his classmates, you know, you can see her unraveling a little bit there, where her response to her son isn't healthy, you know? And I
Right.
think that makes it more interesting too. Like as we're watching her unravel and start to drink more and start to respond to her son in a more angry, aggressive way, that's interesting because we know she's a loving mom, but she's also imperfect. And I like to see those portrayals on TV. I just wish it was more and that was
Totally.
fleshed out
Totally.
more.
I
you know?
But
did-
like her frustration with her son in that scene
Yeah.
too. Yeah, she didn't handle it well, but at the same time, it was realistic. And as a parent, you can sit there and say, "Yeah, I can see where that's coming from, why
Sure.
she is frustrated and stuff." So it was written well in that aspect.
Yeah, it's true. I think the birthday party is the first time we see like the artifice break a little bit, even with her like relaxing into making a fart joke with her kid about the balloons.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then through to kind of like being really upset with him, like that, I cared about her much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also did. I really enjoyed when she starts going a little unhinged because I think Christina
Yeah.
Ricci's so good at that. I mean, that character she plays in Yellow Jackets is like all unhinged. You know what I mean? It's just like a thing she's really good. Like barely holding it together is a vibe she's really good at.
Yeah.
I mean, she really saves the movie in a lot of ways. It doesn't do a very good job of building tension in those scenes that are supposed to be more scary. But there is one scene where there's a close up on Christina Ricci's face as she's hearing something behind her, and you watch her slowly turn her head and kind of angle her eyes backward. That was the most tension in the entire movie for me, and that was all because of her. She sold that scene.
Yeah,
Can
and
we-
go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I was going to slip to spoiler zone.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and skip to spoiler zone. I can bring mine up later. It may
Well,
play
before
better after
that, can we
spoilers.
just talk about how much I hated this landlord lady? As a person who rents,
She's so mean.
as a person,
Played by
Yeah.
Colleen Camp, no less.
as a person who
Yeah.
rents and has a lot of class rage, I literally wanted to murder this lady. She's like the absolute worst. Especially when she's like,
Agreed.
"You just trying to move in and like run up our costs, trying to get things fixed in this house." And I was just like, "Lady, I will burn your
It's
house
such a
down."
landlord thing to say.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And when she was inside the house without an invitation and saying it was her right to be there, I'm
Yes.
like, fuck, no, it's
No,
not. Get the
it's
hell
not.
out.
And like I wanted to like her because like she's styled in a way I'm like, oh
Yeah.
sweet, big lady, cat eye glasses, let's fucking go. And she's just like the worst.
But
And I was
her, like,
damn it, I was rooting for you.
Instantly, her
Yeah.
personality is like, "No, thank you. I'm all set
Yeah.
with you, lady."
Yep.
And her poor husband, though, the whole time's kind of rolling his eyes and like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
There's a
okay.
whole
They
dynamic.
seem great.
There's a
Yeah.
whole dynamic
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah, what that husband must have to undo with like wait staff is probably pretty intense, but yeah.
Dude,
And at the end when
yes.
she's like, pick up the paper, and it's like he's working.
Oh my god. You can give us the spoiler, Caitlin, if you would like.
Yeah, so at one point we find out that she's had this sort of like panic because she can't find her son after school, and she's taken to the police station, and a counselor comes in and talks with her about what happened last summer, and we find that her son drowned the previous summer, and that he's dead, which I think a lot of us clocked
Yeah.
earlier on, but also that she is living in present time. There's a moment in the sort of counseling session where her phone vibrates, which I thought it was my phone. Like it really did. I was like, oh, like I very much was like, surprised by the twist. But they have this really tender sort of backstory with the grandma. So like her comfort person when she was a kid was her grandma, and her grandma talking to her about how, oh, I wish you could have lived when I was a kid. It was such a great time. And we also learned that the monster in the lake is now represented by her grandmother. And like, that's what, like, she can let her son go. I really liked that because I have really personal relationships with my grandmothers and I have a lot of comfort there. And I also thought that that twist was really cool. Like, I just wasn't expecting it. And Eric, like you said, when she exits the police station and like everything's modern, like neon signs, and it's really impactful.
It's
I
so
liked
good,
it.
and the way the sound design hits too, like all those.
Yeah.
You realize like what a nightmare modern society is. Like she just gets
Like, you
aside
see
and
the
it's
car
like,
rusted out. And you're
meh, it's like
oh,
neon
no.
sound and horns and like, oh god, like. But it's the way that it slow develops with the cell phone is
Yeah.
so
I think
sad.
that cell phone was honestly one of the better scenes in the movie because that
So
was
good.
like the big reveal. It's like, oh crap, what's going
It was
on?
a good moment. I remember
Yeah.
being like, oh no.
for sure.
Yeah, and the way that she looks from her cell phone to the social worker, and all of a sudden the social worker's hair and clothing are totally
Or
different.
a little
It's-
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
And
clever.
in some way, if you think about it, like if it may have been an intentional case of misdirection to drop
Mhm.
a lot of hints about the first twist to basically make Caitlin think that she's smarter than the movie, because then what it does is it kind of fake you out because what you're not thinking about is what's really gonna and I like
Yeah.
that. I kind of don't love when a movie, now that I'm like thinking about it, when a movie gives you a twist and then like 10 minutes later it gives you another twist. I sort of enjoy the way this was one twist and then rolled right into the real twist or whatever. Like, because movies that take a break, it's like they want to like have their cake and eat it too. They want you to have the impact of both twists. Whereas this movie was more like, here's the twist, psych, this is the twist.
Yeah.
And then like, I like that the social worker in that scene too, being like, it's going
Yeah.
to be okay.
I mean, I agree. I think those back-to-back twists are impactful, and it is a good way to do it. I just don't think this movie succeeded in building up to that in a way that made it really emotionally impactful. Have you guys
100%.
seen the movie The Lodge?
Yes.
It came out a couple years
I've
ago.
heard it's very sad. That's all I know.
It is very sad. That movie has a huge twist, kind of a couple of them that come towards the end of the movie. But I was floored by them and emotionally just like gutted because it had really built on that so much, and had made you care about the characters and get you to understand their psychology and what had happened to them. And I just don't think this movie did that. Or like the Relic that came out a couple of years ago too. That movie
Yeah.
does this thing with grief and trauma and it connects it to horror in a couple of interesting ways, but it's so it's so impactful because there's so many layers of emotion in that and making you care and understand the characters and their relationships to each other that it's just really meaningful. And I think that this movie could have done that too, because the twist is really interesting and the connection to the grandmother is really sweet. For me, it just didn't totally land because there hadn't been enough emotional buildup to it,
Well, and I
Oh,
think
Yeah.
so Allison and I were talking, our friend Allison of the Who's There podcast and
Mhm.
our friend on Slack, she and I were messaging because we both clocked the dead son at the like first thing she says to the landlord is like, oh, he's buried back there somewhere. And we were like, he's fucking dead. So like that. And I think like between that and then the reveal that that she's actually living in modern times, but like fantasizing that she's living in the past, the amount of time between that, like it didn't build any more tenderness for me. I don't know. It just, there were a couple of things, but it just, if that middle had been tighter and more resonant, then I think this would be awesome. And otherwise it's just, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like good enough.
I think
but
I
would've liked
honestly
it
think
more.
it's like a few screenwriting tweaks away from being like a pretty good movie. It's
Yeah.
just sort of a
Yeah,
little
I agree.
underwhelming, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Any other scenes that
And better
stuck out?
CGI.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
CGI.
please.
Any other scenes that stuck out to you guys?
I like when she quits.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not in the right. She's
That was such a good scene.
definitely
drunk
in the
at work,
wrong there,
yeah.
but watching her be like, 6 or 7 airplane bottles deep, and then she drives, and I'm like, oh, don't do that. But and then she quits. And the only scene I didn't really like at all was the one in the bar. After that, she quits
Where she's
and like,
dancing. With
yeah,
That was
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
weird
doing.
because it doesn't really go
Yeah,
anywhere.
that was a weird one.
Like it doesn't end up
No,
really
it's
having
like
a point.
we already know she's struggling. We don't need dialogue there.
Caitlin, if you
Was
quit your job
anyone
drunk,
else-
how else are you
Oh,
going to
go
get
ahead.
home?
What's that?
If you quit your job drunk, how else are you going to get home except get in your car and drive?
That's fair. And then you do a little cry first, because I did like that she has like a little cry afterwards. So
Sorry, Matilda, you had something real to say?
Was anyone else nervous when we first see the monster in the son's bed that what we were going to get was like a child sexual abuse narrative?
oh God.
I did
The
not.
look of that monster, I was kind of like, uh-oh.
Oh, is this like a
Uh,
creeper monster?
I don't know that this movie is up to this.
Well, and
But
we
then it
don't have a
wasn't,
lot
but-
of stuff with the dad, so like I can see a
Yeah.
version of this where like the dad did something inappropriate, and that's why they're not going back. And later we learned that that's not the case, but I can see, if there was a monster that
So
like,
I-
got into his bed and stuff,
I-
that could have been an avenue, and I'm glad they did not.
I
go
have a
down that
question.
avenue.
Hiding in bed, that something's happening when he's alone in his room. Like, I was just nervous because that definitely is the kind of red herring that draws you all along, is something
Yeah.
about
Oh,
abuse
yeah.
from the dad.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I have a question about that, and I just could be completely missing something. But with the twist as to what happened to the kid, was the husband abusive?
Sounds like
I think
maybe
he was just
neglectful.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Jinx.
He just wasn't watching, I think,
Well,
Like,
he's
So
like
that's like an
human.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting rug pull because it's what's given you so much empathy for her throughout the. Not that you. I mean,
Right.
she's a human, but I'm just saying like it's what the whole script kind of hinges on. So that then when I felt like I wasn't sure if it was true, it was just kind of weird.
Well, I think my takeaway was that so she has this alcohol problem, and when she's recounting what happened to the social worker, she's like, I went to the grocery store, and I'm like, liquor store, got it. So like my thought was that, she left to go get alcohol, maybe left the kid alone, and dad was just like not watching for a second, and which is that's how it can happen, and it's nobody's
Yeah.
fault. It just
Yeah.
happened that way. But I think I don't know, that's something that I maybe inserted that wasn't actually there, but her like heavy drinking, and especially around, I don't know, she has this little pause before grocery store, and I was like, I don't know if you're at the grocery store.
yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
All right, I think that's gonna do it for Monstrous. Would you recommend this movie, Matilda?
Reluctantly, I don't think so.
Mm.
Unless if you're a Christina Ricci super fan, though, I do think, Eric, like you're saying,
Good Ricci.
there is enough in her performance for
Mhm.
you to find something to like. Yeah.
Ariel.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't know that it's worth the $8 or whatever it was to rent it.
Casey.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say pass too.
Caitlin.
I would say yes, just because I think there are better monstrous motherhood movies out there, but this one, had a twist that I wasn't expecting. And I, like I said, thought I knew it all, and I didn't. So
I'll say sure too. What the hell? Why not? I'm exhausted and delirious. Let's say sure. And my top 10's looking real thin this year, Caitlin. So we might as well put it on there too. So let's do that.
Yeah.
On the other side of this break, and we'll be right back.
She was the prom queen, but couldn't handle the heat of the moment. Now she's back, and she's still burning mad. Sometimes bad girls have all the fun. Say hello, Mary Lou. It's prom night 2. Next.
Wop bobbly bop a wop bam.
Hello, creeps.
It's John Kassir.
The voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I'm a friend of bloodygoodhorror.com.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Kaylin, what's on my top 10 list? I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm just going to run it down for you. Number 1 is X. Number 2, Spine of Night. Number 3, Fresh. Number 4, Scream. 5 is open right now. 6, The Cursed. 7 and 8 are both open. 9 is The Seed. And 10 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's funny. You know what's funny about The Cursed as time goes on? Literally all I remember from that movie is when the guy... Did you see it, Kaylin?
I did not.
Wait, did anybody here see it? It's when the guy walks in
uh-huh.
on his wife and she's taking the weirdest topless bath, but she's not in the bath. And then he gets mad at her and we never understand why. That's all I remember from. Oh, and then there's like the werewolf birth scene. Like that's pretty wild. Or when they cut the wolf open, there's like the kid inside.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the dogs running through the
slow
forest?
motion
That's all I
running in
remember
the,
about it.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Mhm. It's funny what sticks in the head. Let's just put this find one of those open slots in there and throw it in there and surprise me.
You got it. Also, speaking of numbers, Eric, we are 2 away from episode 666, just to keep in mind.
Love it. So we should say, I'm on vacation. Hopefully, if airlines get their effing shit together, I'll be on vacation. So we're probably going to take next week off. So then we'll have a show after that, and then we'll do 666. And we have a tentative plan. I need to reach out to the person it involves. And then we got a fun movie lined up, so it'll be good. Quite the milestone here at Bloody Good Horror.
Yeah.
Who knew?
You betcha.
So Ariel and Matilda, one of you can nominate the other one to tell me where they can find the zombie girls.
Oh, I nominate Ariel. Ariel's good at this part.
Ariel, you get nominated for this, I think, every time.
Every time?
love it.
I
She's
think
really
so,
good.
too.
She's
Rachel does it
she's
too.
the most thorough human.
That's the strangest compliment I've ever gotten. I
You're very
appreciate that.
thorough.
So you can find us at zombiegirls.com. It's GRRLZ, like Riot Girls. And you can find the Zombie Girls on every major podcasting platform. We have a bunch of shows. The OG Zombie Girls show, which me and Matilda are on, is really fun. We just ended up covering Hagazusa and the Wretched. That episode just came out. So if you want to hear us talking about people eating babies, then watch that or listen to that one. And we have More Deadly. That's the show that Rachel and I do about women identified horror directors and what they're up to. So we're always interviewing directors and reviewing the movies, and that one's a lot of fun too. Yeah, we have a few other shows on there too. And there's lots of it. You can also find us on social media. We do a lot of posts there. So we're ZG Podcasts on both Twitter and Instagram. And we're gearing up for Pride right now. So we'll have posts like 5 days a week for the whole month. So check it out.
Love it. All right. Caitlin, what's going on at Plug It Up?
Trucking along. Got a fun one coming up this week. Well, the one that's being released this week, when this comes out, this episode will be Men, the new release from Alex Garland, our friends at A24. And then recording one on a psychedelic Nick Cage joint that I think a lot of us are fond of. So.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Nice.
So,
I'm excited.
no, it's been a lot of fun. Have some hopefully fun things in the works. Maybe merch. We'll see.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, TBD. But it's going well.
Very cool. Casey, what's going on in your world, big guy?
Art and work. So I'm just creating art out there on cinema.fromage on Instagram. Come hang out. I've still got a gallery going at a local library in Culver. I talked to them, to the person that helped set that up last week. They're going to leave that up on display until their local authors conference is done. So that was fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Have you gotten like any contacts or met anybody through having that up there?
Not really, not
Yeah.
too much, but it's a small town. I'm not too surprised. It felt good though, so it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's
But
very cool.
I got stuff going out there. I've got some sticker stuff in the works. Maybe doing some writing on the side. So we'll see. I've got some ideas for later in the year for
You're
you.
like Pam and her art show on The Office.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, you can check out my latest single. It's called Graves. If you search Hi-Fi on Spotify or Bandcamp, it's HY-FY. It is currently my most listened to song.
That's exciting.
Nice.
Climbing the charts of my own songs. And one of my favorite things now is there's finally enough user info on Spotify that, like, if you put on one of my songs or one of the EPs or something and it plays out, it now will just go to a radio station. I think I've almost single-handedly influenced this to happen myself because I have my own personal Spotify where I listen to my music and but it's cool. It'll play a bunch of synth jam stuff, suggestion stuff for you. So it's
I
always
was
fun.
going to ask where it sends you afterwards.
Like you might hear some Power Glove. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Very good.
No.
Some Magic Sword. Some of my favorite like film composers that make like synth music. So it's good. Check it out. And I am working on a like it started as an EP. It might be longer. When does it go from EP to LP? I don't know. Matilda, that seems like something you might know. 7 songs, 8 songs. That's like a concept album for like a movie soundtrack that I sort of made the story up for in my head and then just composed a bunch of music for. I've been working on that for a year and I'm hoping it's out this summer. TBD. WIP. That's where it currently is.
Awesome.
We have nothing for email tonight because it's Monday. Well, I also posted Instagram late, so there's nothing there. Caitlin, though, you have some Instagram stuff, right? And then we'll do Twitter with Casey.
I've got some stuff on Slack, actually. From Slack, we put a call out for questions there. Our buddy Jason, the Bearded Dad from Dads from the Crypt, asked, "What's your favorite Christina Ricci role? Has anyone seen her performance on Yellow Jackets?"
Yes.
It's probably that because I don't actually know that I've seen a ton of her movies, honestly.
Yeah.
I love Now and Then. Now and Then is like a top 10 of all time for me.
Yeah, she's great in that. She was
Yeah,
really
that
good
was
in
pretty
that
good.
Lizzie Borden show too. That miniseries that she did, the Lizzie Borden Chronicle.
Oh, I
think it was
forgot
called.
about that.
I
Yeah,
assume
she was really
she
good in
played
that.
Lizzie Borden.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
I always say this, but when you, at least at the time, I had jury duty in Boston like a decade ago at this point.
Mhm.
And I was like close enough into the city that I actually had to go down to like Suffolk Court. It's like in the State House, like down in the city. And they had, in the room that you hang out in all day waiting to get called, they had displays of famous cases from Suffolk County. And one of them was Lizzie Borden. And they had a whole pictorial thing like that you could just, like you were at a museum and you could read, Liz, the first woman ever like tried for murder or something like that. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
I'm partial to the Chloe Sevigny, Kristen Stewart lesbian Lizzie Borden movie. Made my partner watch that on Friday. Waiting for John. I really want John to watch it.
I really love the Ice Storm. She was one of the kids in the Ice Storm, if you've seen that, and Buffalo 66, like that opposite of sex, Buffalo 66 era. Christina Ricci was very.
Yeah, she was
really
in Monster too, wasn't she? That was a good role.
What was she in Monster?
She played the girlfriend role.
Oh,
Monster. Which movie was that?
You know, the one about the serial killer.
Charlize Theron.
Oh,
Yeah.
Monster. Oh,
Eileen Warner's movie.
Interesting.
I saw that at 10 in the morning at like some early matinee on a Sunday, and everyone else in there, I think like the senior home down the street had come to the movies. And I was like, we all know what we're in for, but everybody was into it.
Amazing. I never saw it.
It's good.
Like when I saw The Lighthouse, it was me and a bunch of like old people in the middle of the day, and I was like, do they know?
Too busy. Listen, I got some breaking.
What's going to happen with that mermaid?
We've got 2 also from our friend Nick. The first one is, when you go into your refrigerator, what is the first liquid you would reach for if you were thirsty?
Water.
LaCroix. Yeah.
I'm usually going for water.
I drink water and tea. That's pretty much it.
I've got my like emotional support water bottle that I have at all times, but that's not in the fridge. If I'm going to the fridge, I get Diet Coke.
Yeah.
People who like don't drink
Same.
water like blow my mind because like I wake up in the morning and I want to drink an ocean of water and I feel that
Me
all day
too.
long. Like I just want water all the time. And if I don't,
Yeah.
and if I'm busy, like if I go like 2 hours and I don't get any water, I'm like dying on a desert, thirsty for water.
Mm-hmm.
See, I drink a glass of water before I even hit the coffee in the morning. It's
Yeah.
how I wake my
It's
brain
the
up.
Really?
first. It's the first thing I do when I wake up is drink a shit ton of water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in the middle of the night when I get up to like go pee or whatever, I'll just like chug a bunch of water from my water
Matilda,
bottle.
what do you do when you wake up?
Yeah.
I go right for the coffee. I grew up in
Interesting.
a house that like gonna reveal my age a little bit. Like my mother would like crack a tab and take 2 Excedrin in the morning, and that was breakfast.
That's so good. See, I read somewhere this whole thing about how if you can delay drinking caffeine for like 2 hours after you wake up, it's actually really good for your body because then, like when you drink a lot of caffeine first thing in the morning, it replaces your body stops producing some of the things that caffeine sort of is giving you. Like it's a hormonal thing basically because like
Oh.
so if you allow
Yeah.
yourself to wake up and get your body to get going and then do the caffeine, then your body still gets used to like doing its normal wake up routine that it would do without caffeine. I still feel like garbage all the time, so I don't know if it accomplishes anything, but
Yeah.
whether it's
I didn't
true
know
or-
about that.
And whether it's true or not, or something I read on the internet, I've always read about how basically your brain's dehydrated in the morning. So you drink a big glass of water,
well, I
you
mean,
kind of jumpstart everything.
you've been sleeping and not drinking for how long? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I will say that I go for the caffeine-free Diet Coke now, the gold can. So
Dude, you know who used to drink
Oh,
that stuff?
gold
My
customer.
my grandparents used to drink that stuff.
yeah, my grandparents
I was
drink
like,
it too.
I was like, why are you? There's nothing in it. Like you're not getting sugar or caffeine. Like what? Why?
Sodium, maybe. Taste.
Deliciousness.
Yeah. And then Nick's second question is, what is your favorite condiment?
Oh,
Oh, good question.
mayo, baby, all day, all
There you
night.
go.
Mayonnaise is the best.
I'm gonna go with mayo too.
I have it at.
Yeah.
Part of me
Mayo.
wants to be like the southern answer of just like ranch, because I like unashamedly I do love ranch.
Let me put it
Me
this
I know
way.
people are like, that's gross, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's
Let me
so
put
good.
it this way. I had mayo for all 3 meals yesterday, including breakfast, because I made this big breakfast sandwich with like eggs and smoked salmon, and I put a little bit of mayo on the bagel, and it was amazing.
Sounds good.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's the nectar
I
of
think
the
it's
gods.
Cholula for me.
Oh,
Oh, I
Cholula's
love,
good on
love a good
the
hot
sausage.
sauce. Yeah.
You know what's even better? Hot sauce and mayo mixed together.
Oh, that.
It's real good.
Yeah, I think mayo's like the best condiment for French fries. You want to get
Oh,
fancy,
yeah.
you mix it in with a squirt or 2 of ketchup, and you make fry sauce.
Yeah, I used to take
Oh,
like I
okay.
used to take mayo, and then I had like a really smoky chipotle hot sauce that I would mix together with it. It's really good.
Hmm.
French fries and
I
ranch are
remember,
pretty good. Just saying.
Yeah.
Ranch is good on
I'm
it.
down. I used
remember-
to dip pizza in ranch when I was a kid.
Oh, I still do.
I mean, I can't. Well, I can't eat pizza, so
But I remember I had this boyfriend that was like, and this was a good point. He was like, if like the French had like an herbed aioli that they served with everything, people would be like, exquisite. And because it's like ranch here, like very popular in the South, people shit on it all the time, but
True.
it's solid. It's very solid. But that is it for Slack questions, Eric.
thank you. Casey, what's on Twitter?
All right, we got a couple questions on Twitter. You got questions, we got answers. Hit us up, ask BGH hashtag. First up, we have from @Schnecky91. Speaking of monsters, do you guys have a favorite monster? Not counting your typical Universal monsters. For example, I'm a big fan of the Cathoga from the Relic. Would love to see more of that guy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Give me that question.
Yeah, one
more
from the
time, Casey,
ritual was
sorry.
cool.
Oh, monster design.
That was really
Yeah.
cool. That was a super creative one.
Yeah, it's funny because I was kind of thinking of the ritual for this movie because I actually didn't like the ritual, but
Oh,
that monster is like amazing. So like you remember
Yeah.
the monster makes it a really memorable film. You kind of either way.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember
Yeah,
what it
that's
was.
true.
It
Yeah.
just didn't. It was kind of all over the place.
I don't know if it fully counts as a monster or not, but I always thought Baba Yaga's house
Mhm.
was pretty awesome.
Mm.
I think that the monster design in Krampus is some of the best in horror in like the last 20
That
years.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Definitely.
way that the masks open up and are like organic on those things is so good.
I rewatched that at Christmas time this year, and you're right. There's some close-ups on the
It's
Krampus's
so
face, and you can
creepy.
see how his face is hanging loose like a mask and whatnot, and you can see hints of things underneath. It's pretty awesome.
But there's the like dolls too in the attic where like what looks like a plastic mask sort of or like ceramic mask like splits and opens up and there's just monster underneath it. Like it's like a fake. Yeah, just all good.
That's cool.
There's
Very
a
creative.
horror exhibit in the basement of the Pop Culture Museum in Seattle, and they have a chest burster in there that's sitting on a mirror, and so you can see underneath it, and you can see
That's
it has. I didn't
horrifying.
know this until I got up close to it. It has like big '80s acrylic fingernails
Oh my god.
Nice.
and like labia. Like there's a pretty explicit. So if you can, that's my favorite monster. Having seen it up close, that there's this like ultimate monstrous feminine thing about like those
Mhm.
big acrylic.
I mean, Alien.
spikes.
Anything that Giger
Yeah.
did is
Yeah.
amazing.
I just made a note, Matilda. It says alien, labia, acrylic, nails.
Just the chest
It's on the
burster.
list
The
for picking up,
xenomorph
so I
does-
gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Like the Xenomorph Queen is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Like I watched that movie for the first time in a long time, a couple of years ago, and was like,
So
"Damn,
good.
dude!" Because I have a
Yeah.
very young memory of being shown that movie when I was way too young, like 6 years old or something.
Oh,
like that.
uh-huh.
And like I was at my grandparents' camp, and they let my brother rent it. It was like there was a whole chain of irresponsibility happening down the line. But like seeing that Queen again, like brought back some like fucking some monkey brain memories that were just like, oh god, like this is a deep seated terror that I have right now. And I liked what they did with it in Prometheus and Alien Covenant too. There were some kind of cool ways that it was cool to see that creature with really good modern CGI.
Yeah. I mean, I hated Alien Covenant, but I will give you there some cool visuals.
Yeah. And this is a face hugger before you get mail. Sorry, it's not a chest burster. It's a face hugger.
Good to clarify. All right, next up we have another longtime listener, longtime friend, Joe at PS Trophy Hunter. Who would win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
This is a.
Wait, what?
This is another Ask BGH question. Who would win in a fight? Lemmy from not Ace of Spades, Motorhead.
I mean,
Oh.
Lemmy's dead, so I think God wins, right?
Yeah, and God.
Or is this
So,
like when he goes to heaven? Or do we think Lemmy is going,
well, if he's there,
I
he's there now.
think this is the trick question that Lemmy is God. Isn't that the
That could
Steve
be.
Buscemi? There's like a Steve Buscemi. Oh, what movie is this? I'm not going to remember what movie it is.
I can't think of the name now.
It's
but
Wayne's World-ish, but it's not Wayne's World.
Oh, Airheads.
Oh,
Yes.
Got it. They played that movie every day in Comedy Central for 15 years.
That's true.
I watched a documentary on Lemmy because I didn't know anything about Motorhead, I gotta say, and I was like, oh, this is like really interesting.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I was proud that I knew who Lemmy was.
I know him
Yeah.
way more. I know him way more as like a figure in pop culture that sometimes shows up in like trauma movies than I do his actual music. And he's in those downfall of Western civilization documentaries that are fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
in his little jean shorts. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Last but not least, another longtime listener, longtime friend of the show at Skizbot asks, so has anyone else had a decade-spanning crush on Christina Ricci since they were 10 years old, or is that just me?
I never really,
Everybody, right?
Yeah, I never really had a Christina Ricci. Maybe when I was a kid, like Addams Family Time, but I don't really. It's not a thing that does much for me, I think.
I think like between Casper and Adam's Family and Now and Then and Gold Digger Curse for Bear Mountain for a deep cut. Like
oh
I think
my God, I forgot about that.
I like wanted to be Christina Ricci,
Yes.
so I just thought she
Mhm,
was the coolest, and
Her eyes.
yeah, she was definitely like an icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same for like Buffalo 66 and The Opposite of Sex, which is such a great
She's so
role.
cool.
Yeah.
She's really cool.
I could say I probably had a crush on Christina Ricci at some point, but it was long after Addams Family and that, because
Yeah,
that
you're
was
too
too
old.
young for me.
Too old. Is that it?
That's it for Twitter.
All right. Thanks everybody who wrote in and they're half drunk on their Memorial Day Monday. Back to work tomorrow. And like I said, BGH taking a week off next week. Probably get a classic in the feed. And then we'll be back and heading into episode 666. Thank you, Ariel and Matilda, for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Don't forget to check out the Zombie Girls, GRRLZ, everywhere you get your podcasts and on social media. Check out Kaylin on Plug It Up. And check out Casey on the Earth doing his art.
Yes. I'm just rambling. Doing
Us ladies are on Venus, am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's been reading their chicken soup for this wall.
Yeah.
That's going to do it this week for BGH. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Right, bye.
Bye-bye.